Carla Hinton here reporting for the Oklahoman and newsok.com. I have today with me contemporary Christian recording artist Jami Smith, who is about to release her 13th CD that has a title that a lot of people may be very familiar with, Faith in You. Jami is also going to be very busy in the next couple of weeks, and I was hoping to talk to her about that today. Thank you, Jami, for coming in.
My pleasure.
Let's talk a little bit about Faith in You. Let's talk about the song and the album. First, the song. How do people know that song?
Well, it is the song for a recent St. Anthony commercial where you see the little girl praying. It's the song you hear in the background.
Okay. How did that song originate?
Well, they approached me and asked me if I would write a song that would be about prayer, because they knew that I believed in prayer with what I do. Some people at the agency went to school with me and knew that I was doing Christian music, and so he said, we knew you would write a song about prayer. And so I went in, met with them, and went home that night and just thought, okay, I can do this. And it was real outside of my comfort zone because, normally I just lead worship and travel around and do that in churches and schools and things like that. And I had the footage of the commercial that you see when you see the 30-second commercial. And so I just watched it 2 or 3 times. And as I watched it, there's a family praying and a little girl praying, and she's just really getting after it during her prayer. If you remember, she's just talking to God. And it made me think of the verse in Lamentations that says, pour out your heart to the Lord like water. And so I thought, well, that looks like exactly what she is doing. So I began to hear a melody in my head as I was watching her and the other scenes in the commercial, and just played with my guitar until I got the words and the melody that you know, which are the chorus of Faith in You.
Okay. Now the CD, Faith in You, actually comes out on April 18th, and
That's
you're
right.
going to have a concert where you're going to debut the CD. Is
That's
that right?
It'll be at Crossings Community Church, April 18th.
April 18th. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the songs that are compiled in this album, because I think you told me that for some reason this particular time, all of the songs kind of have a general theme.
They do. I really was watching a lot of my friends simply go through loss of various kinds, either death or divorce or just different things that we grieve in life. Maybe even just a past. A friend of mine has her dad died years and years ago. And so just dealing with grief and loss of all variety. And so I found myself in a place when I was writing these songs that were about that, but that God is so faithful, and even in these seasons where we go through these excruciating things that we never thought we'd go through, that He is still there, that He has not turned His back, He has not forgotten us. And so I found that I was writing songs like that expressed that He is faithful even when it doesn't feel like He's faithful.
Okay. Now, speaking of faith, you are also going to be performing at the Bombing Memorial Anniversary Service on April 19th. That's
Yes.
the day after
Yes.
the CD debuts, and you'll have that concert. Let's talk a little bit about that. I think it's very appropriate for you as an Oklahoma artist, you're from Oklahoma, to be performing at this particular service. I
am more than honored to be a part of this service. The 13th year, and just Bob Woodruff, who was the reporter who was hurt in Iraq and sustained that head injury, and he's going to be there and make a few remarks. And so I'm just real honored to get to play the song Faith in You, which I think is so appropriate to see how 13 years later Oklahoma City is still continuing to persevere from this very painful event that happened to all of us, to all Oklahomans. And so I'm very honored that I get to be there and hear him speak and just be a part of that event.
Okay. I have one last question for you. You recently toured the Bombing Memorial Museum with one of the bombing survivors, and you all kind of had an interesting conversation about a particular theme or phrase. Can you talk about that?
She is a remarkable woman. She lost her husband that morning.
Okay.
And so I got the chance to interview her and to capture her story on video, and we're going to actually show it the night of my concert on April 18th, the night before. And she just briefly shared with us how she has made it through these last 13 years without her husband, and how she dealt with the loss. And so before we were on camera, I said, I just kind of was telling her about how the night's going to look and how her story was going to fit into the night. And she said, well, I mean, there's only one thing I know. And I said, well, what would that be? And she said, just one thing. His grace is sufficient. And I just smiled so big because I have a song on the CD called Your Grace is Sufficient. And she said, well, I love that verse, Jami. It is the one thing that has got me through all the up times, the down times, everything in between. I know that he is there to sustain me. His grace is sufficient.
Okay. Well, thank you so much,
My
Jami,
pleasure.
for being here. This is Carla Hinton reporting for the Oklahoman and NewsOK.com. Look for more information in the Oklahoman.